Started then. It is 10:01, and every Sunday night I get together with Dave Park, and we spend a little bit of time doing some guided meditation work and even talking a little bit about meditation. And tonight we're going to follow pretty much the same format we followed the last couple of sessions, and I'm going to do a few minutes of mindfulness meditation. And then Dave and I are going to share some of our thoughts that are really pretty important on relational frame theory. It sounds complex, but it's not. You do it every day. And then we're going to spend some time going through some guided meditations. But before we do that, Dave, if you would like to tell the folks who are tuning in tonight a little bit about our webinar series starting on Thursday, March 15th. Dave and I are going to be doing a webinar series together on fear, and Dave hosts a blog called Life After Fear. And what's the importance of addressing fear, and how does mindfulness fit into that picture, Dave?
Well, so in my model, fear is only information, and fear has never stopped anybody from doing anything. It's simply our relationship with fear. And so during our workshop, we're going to cover fear. We'll cover, certain techniques with NLP, and also mindfulness in the sense of what mindfulness will do for us is create space so that when we are fearful, that fear doesn't become the decision, or that fear doesn't make a decision. We can acknowledge the fear and still move forward anyway.
So what you're saying is that we can actually be fearful and not be afraid of fear?
It's interesting because I've been in combat and I was plenty afraid, but it didn't stop me. Fear, and I imagine any firefighter probably does feel an element of fear when he's running into a building. And right, it's when we focus on that fear and we treat that fear as our only reality that it becomes disempowering.
I see that often where we get trapped by our emotions rather than simply letting our emotions be an emotion. That really brings us into the basic subject of this website and our time together, which is mindfulness meditation. What is it that mindfulness meditation does for us? In other words, Dave, if we spend a minute or 3 minutes tonight in meditation, how does that actually help us?
Mindfulness creates space from our reactive mind. So we have thoughts, we have emotions, and we're so conditioned, particularly in our society, to make those emotions or to make those thoughts turn them into truths, and we become that thought and we become that feeling, and we get carried away in that imagination process or whatever it is. And mindfulness will create space, and it'll give us insight to ourselves. It doesn't necessarily stop the thoughts. It makes us aware of our thoughts and our thinking process, and allows us to decide, if we want to pay that thought any attention or give it any value.
Sure. And how does one do mindfulness meditation? This isn't really complex. I don't need any funny clothes or a funny position, do I?
Well, if you want to look serious about it, then I would highly recommend it. However, no, you don't need any funny positions. You can do mindfulness in any aspect of your life. And, we've talked about whether you're sitting or walking or riding a roller coaster. And you wear what you want to wear, eat what you want to eat, of course, and just be mindful about it when you're getting dressed. Consciously put one leg into your pants, or, your shorts or your robe, whatever you happen to be wearing.
And I've always said mindfulness is about living fully in this moment. And in this moment, even if there's chaos going around me, even if there's fear inside of my mind, in this exact moment, I'm always okay. And mindfulness is a skill that really lets us grasp that concept so we can step back from the turmoil of life and simply experience success. In fact, I think one of the easiest ways to do this is, instead of talking about mindfulness, to simply practice mindfulness. And each week, what Dave and I have done is actually taken time to actually give you an opportunity to practice mindfulness. This is really the mindful minute exercise. And I know a lot of people think to themselves, wow, I wish I had time to meditate, or I had, somebody to hold me accountable for meditation. And that's really what this Sunday night group is about. It's about an opportunity for you to meet with some of your friends. You can type in the chat box below and to share some ideas and to spend some time learning. But at the same time, we want to take time in each session to actually do the practice of mindfulness. Because what I've found is that sometimes by doing it, it's almost more effective than trying to explain it to folks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to begin a meditation time here with the sound of a singing bowl. You don't have to begin meditation with the sound of a singing bowl, and Dave uses an electronic singing bowl, which is really pretty cool if you have an iPhone or an Android. And you can use any kind of a timer you want to, and you don't even have to use a timer. You can simply decide how long that you're going to spend in meditation, and then spend that amount of time in meditation. And so what we're going to do here is I'm going to actually spend a few minutes giving you some instructions in the form of a guided mindfulness meditation exercise to help you really focus on those things. Then I'll sound the singing bowl once again, and I'll be quiet also. And I'll join you in a silent minute of meditation. And by practicing this here today as a group, we can hold each other accountable and set aside time for formal meditation. You can even ask questions in the chat box below about this process. And then Dave and I are going to spend a few minutes talking about something we think is really important to help you become unstuck when it comes to difficult emotions. And that goes by the fancy name of relational frame theory, but really a truly useful idea. And then Dave's going to end our session with another meditation, a longer meditation, a guided meditation. So that's the agenda for tonight. Every Sunday night and every Tuesday night we get together for a group meditation. By the way, we'd love it if you would invite your friends, because this is something to really share with other folks. So any thoughts, Dave, before I begin with a guided mindfulness meditation leading into a silent minute of meditation?
Not a single thought.
Well, I suppose that's a good way to start a meditation process, huh, Dave? I will begin with the sound of a singing bowl. And so when you hear the sound of the singing bowl, simply close your eyes. And with your eyes closed tonight, pay attention to your breath as you breathe in and breathe out. So often we go through the day without paying any attention to our breath. And our breath is something we've had since the beginning of life, and it's something we'll possess until the end of life. So the breath makes a great focal point to simply bring yourself into this moment. Of course, you've set aside time tonight for a period of meditation, and so as you breathe in and breathe out, pay attention to that breath. And as you pay attention to the breath, notice the way the breath feels as you inhale, as it enters your nostrils. And pay attention to the breath as it travels into the lungs and the inhale turns around and becomes an exhale. Paying attention to the breath as you breathe in and breathe out. In fact, you don't have to try to speed up nor slow down your breath. Simply pay attention to your breath. And when you do so, what you'll notice is that it's easy to set aside the tasks of the day, the concerns about tomorrow, or even the burdens of yesterday. And anytime you find your thoughts drifting, don't become disappointed. In meditation, people often wonder, what if my mind continues to think? That's what minds do, after all, and so that's simply part of the process. And simply label those thoughts as thoughts and let them come and let them go. Bring your attention back to the breath, using that as a way to fully experience the present. You can even mindfully pay attention to your hands resting in your lap or on the arms of the chair, or your buttocks where it sits on the chair, or even your feet as you're grounded to the floor. Mindfulness is simply about paying attention to the present. And so you'll hear the sound of a singing bowl again. And in silence, spend a minute with Dave and I, simply meditating on the present, this moment, and your breath. And with the sound of the singing bell the third time, simply open your eyes and reorient to the room. In fact, you can even congratulate yourself for having set aside some time on a Sunday night to practice developing the skill of mindfulness meditation. Mindfulness meditation, when practiced on a daily basis, is something that helps you live fully in the present. And each day on our website, we post a new daily meditation, either in written blog form or in video, but there's always something new every day. And by setting aside time to practice this simple process that you just went through today, you'll find that mindful living becomes an intuitive part of your daily life. Dave?
Yes, I'm still in a nice, blissful state, so.
Sure, great. Well, I want to spend a couple of minutes tonight talking about, in our teaching time, about relational frame theory. And I'm going to make this really easy for folks because this has a long, fancy name, relational frame theory. But it's something we all do every day. And RFT, or relational frame theory, is one of the things that separates us from every other animal on the planet, whether it's a bear, whether it's a seal, whether it's a penguin, a dog, a bird. None of these other animals have the same ability we do. And that is a cognitive ability to create a relational frame. In other words, to see how one thing connects to another thing. This is why you can tell a small child, don't touch the stove because it's hot. A dog would need to touch the stove to make sure it's hot and then learn, but a human understands stove, hot, pain. They've created a relational frame. Well, there may be some children who still want to touch the stove, but there are a lot of things we don't do simply because we've been told not to do something because we understand what the consequences of that are. And we have an uncanny ability to create relationships that aren't real, that don't really exist, in addition to these relationships that do exist. And because of that ability, that strength that makes us the smartest of all of the animals in the animal kingdom, it also becomes a deficit because it can feed my anxiety, or it can feed my worry, or it can feed my depression. And sometimes we have relational frames which are unhealthy, and we need to come up with strategies that can actually break those relationships. Let me give you an example of your own ability to create relational frames. I'd like everyone viewing right now to think of a noun. Think of something in this world. It can be a singing bowl, it could be a stuffed animal, it could be a car. It really doesn't matter what it is that you think about, but think about something. Now that you have something in your mind, I want you to think of something else. Maybe you're thinking of a singing bowl. Now think of a stuffed animal. Doesn't really matter what it is. Think of two different things. Now let me ask you some questions. Which one is better than the other one? In your mind, are you able to create an answer to that question? Which one is better than the other one? For example, if I have a bear and a singing bowl, the mind might say, well, the singing bowl because it's heavier. Now let's ask another question. See if the mind can create an answer to this one. Think of two things, whatever two things you're thinking of. You've already answered the question, which one is better? Which one is more important than the other one? Come up with an answer to that one in regards to the two objects that you're thinking about. Is your mind able to answer that question? Well, the stuffed animal's more important than the singing bowl because I bought this on eBay and, well, the bear was actually a gift for my stepdaughter. It's far more important than the singing bowl. Now a third question to illustrate relational frames. You're thinking of two objects, I have two objects. Which one is the parent of the other one? A much more difficult question. But which one is the parent to the other one? Is your mind able to create an answer to that? Think of the two objects. In which way is one the parent to the other one? Sometimes the answer is absurd. Well, we're often able to do that. Well, this one is the singing bowl is the parent to this one because, why, the bear actually fits inside of the singing bowl. So this one must be the parent to that one. Our minds do all kinds of things. But this is a logical fallacy. The reason it's a logical fallacy is really simple. Not everything can be the parent of everything else. It's impossible. But this is how the mind works. It creates relationships that don't exist. And those relationships can cause us an intense amount of stress in life. Dave, your thoughts on relational frame theory? I tried to explain it pretty simply, but how do you see relational frame theory really being the cause of some of our problems in life?
Well, as you said, our minds are relational, and it's a unique thing about the human mind. So what we're able to do also with that relational thing is take things into larger or different contexts. So, for instance, if I believe for one reason that a person doesn't like me, then I can relate that to all people don't like me.
Right.
And then I can relate that to I'm an unlikable person and create an entire thing without really maybe even never knowing the truth about whether that one person did or didn't like me. So the metaphors that we create in our life, the context and the content that we relate out, and what mindfulness does is it allows us to encounter things in their wholeness in that moment without the necessity of relating it to something else. If that makes sense.
Yeah, so what mindfulness does is it stops that process of the relational frames that I create that are either nonsensical or unhealthy for me. I think a lot of our time in life is spent just with thoughts being thoughts and thoughts building on thoughts and creating new relational frames, and pretty soon we just feel tired from our thoughts. And so you're saying mindfulness is a tool, or meditation is a tool for helping us to step aside from those relationships?
Yes, to stop those relationships in their tracks.
Sure. Is there a way that you can illustrate this for us tonight, Dave, by either guiding us through a meditation or even sharing a story with us?
So, since we didn't plan this too far in advance, I'll pull a story out that seems to be related. And since I'm a relational person, I can make pretty much anything fit.
And that's one of our adaptive strengths, is that we have the ability to do that. It's an adaptive strength. Sometimes it can be a problem too. Tonight it sounds like a good idea.
Certainly. I mean, it's probably one of the reasons why we have dominion over the earth.
Well, both.
It's also the reason why we suffer tremendously at times.
Sure, and one of the other reasons why we have dominion over the earth is because of our thumbs.
Right. Right.
I know that sounds simple, but I was actually mindfully letting my dog out this morning, and when I opened the door to let my dog out, I realized the only reason why I'm the master and my dog is not the master is my dog can't open his own door. The dog can't open the door because the dog doesn't have thumbs, so the dog is dependent on me. If the dog had thumbs, they would be the rulers of the world. Just my thought.
Correct. So the story is that a young monk was traveling down the road, and he came to a river, and he couldn't find a way to cross the river, and he saw an older monk, a sage, on the other side of the river, and he yelled over to the older monk. He said, "Good sir, how can I get to the other side?" And the older monk looked around, and he looked back at the young monk, and he said, "But you are on the other side."
Very good.
So, there you go.
Really a perfect example of perception is everything. Well, would you guide us through a meditation tonight, David, in the time that we have remaining? We probably have about 5 minutes or so. And I think it's so important to actually set aside time to practice meditation. And what this group does on Sunday and Tuesday nights is it gives us a chance really to practice together. So would you do that?
Certainly. So go ahead and close your eyes for a moment. And I'm not even going to use my fancy insight timer here. And I want you just once again to begin to focus on your breathing. Focusing on the point where the air enters your nose. And when we think of relational frames and how we relate to things, and we think of people that are like us because of the qualities about them that we focus on, and then we think about people that are different than us, maybe a different religion or a different political party, and notice how when you think of the people that are different from you, you tend to exclude everything that is the same. And then you create the better than, worse than, smarter than, dumber than. And we have a tendency to compare and evaluate. We're at a certain place in our life, a certain career, a certain relationship. And perhaps we're looking at another career or another relationship. Maybe we want to be single, or maybe we're single and we want to be in a relationship. And you notice that no matter where you are and where you want to go, somebody is trying to get to where you are and leave where you want to go. And in this moment, just be present completely where you are. And allow your desires, your wants, to quiet down a bit. And think for a moment about the abundance that you may have in your life now. Think about perhaps somebody on the other side of the river that wants to get to where you are. And just for a moment, Find something in your life, in your surroundings, in your present moment to be grateful for. And when you can feel this gratitude, you can slowly come back to the room, being gentle with yourself. And open your eyes.
I used my small singing bell just in case anyone still had their eyes closed. And that was a great meditation, Dave. I really appreciate it. That was a great way to end the day. You know, I think that finding the time to actually practice meditation each day is really difficult for some folks, which is why every Sunday and Tuesday night, Dave and I are taking some time to guide you through a variety of different meditations to help you set that time aside. Tuesday night, we'll be doing this again. By next week, we'll actually have a solution to the 2-camera problem. You guys have been awesome, though, and I hope that this was a great way for you to end your week and a great way for you to begin a new week. Dave?
Thank you, everybody. We really appreciate you joining us.
Thanks. See you guys next Sunday, or next Tuesday, and then next Sunday.